Well, hello, I'm 𝐂𝐫𝐸. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be covering 3 years of me owning this table, my experience with them, the build quality, and if I would suggest buying one after owning one for 3 years. We're also going to cover some topics about some subscribers that have bought them, what they went on to do. But instead of just sitting around the table and talking about this, let's jump right into the past 3 years of videos I've made and the projects I've cut on it. We'll do a bunch of voiceover and kind of give you a more in-depth feel on these machines and what I think about them. So let's get into the video. Since I got the titanium 45 plasma torch, I was looking around at CNC plasma tables and I was shocked to find that you can actually get a 2 foot by 2 foot CNC plasma table for $1,500. This one I spent $1,800 on because I added a few more options, larger cut capacity and a water table. But yeah, the original table out of the box for $1,500 will cut 24 inches by 24 inches. It's from Langmuir Systems. It's a Crossfire. It's a pretty cool thing. I was blown away that you can get such a quality little table for the price. One of the extra options you could buy was a laptop table stand for another 89 bucks, and I decided that's one of the first projects I should learn how to program this thing and build. So if you guys are interested in the video, I cut this out of 1/8 inch salvaged aluminum. So starting off, I want to mention I paid out of pocket for both my CNC tables, so this 3-year review is 100% self-sponsored. So now you may be asking, why do I have affiliate link through them? Well, when I ordered my first table, Langmuir Systems was just starting out as a new company. I called them up to order my table, told them about my YouTube channel. I think I had about 25,000 subscribers at that point. They saw these projects like this little aluminum laptop stand that I made, and they contacted me and said, we really like your content, what you're doing on your channel, and asked if I want to be an affiliate. So that's how I am. And if you use my promo code, you will save $100 on a table, and it helps me out a little bit for all my projects and my videos as well. So this interesting contraption is my articulated mini dump truck, which I built from the ground up. And if it wasn't for my original Langmuir Systems table, I don't think I would ever completed this. It really was a big help in building this whole project here. So let's get started and check out the beginning of this video. Excited about this. This is probably part 1 of maybe a 10-part series of building an articulating tractor dump truck. I wanted to do this for like 3 years ago, but finally started on it recently. We're going to be utilizing all Subaru Legacy running gear, so this is going to be all-wheel drive. It's going to be articulated so it can pivot and turn in the center. We're also utilizing that new $1,500 CNC table I have to cut all the bracketry, which has really been helpful in the shop. So like I mentioned, I bought one of the original tables when the company first started out, and back then they used third-party software, which is Mach 3, to control the tables. I did not like that software, but since then, after many sales, Langmuir was able to actually start writing their own programs, what's called Fire Control, for all the controller software, and it is way nicer to work with. I know this sounds ridiculous, but the amount of time this thing saves me to be able to duplicate these parts, I gotta cut 4 of these things. It's like having a helper in the shop. I know it sounds stupid, but I don't have to run the drill press on here. I don't have to run the angle grinder. Look at these cuts. All right, I'm super happy how that strut mount turned out. I'm gonna go back to plasma torch and cut out the other one. I just got it all tack welded in case I gotta grind anything off and reposition, but pretty happy how that is. I still need to make the other mount right off the old steering knuckle location. It comes up to here and mounts it. Like I mentioned, that fire control software that comes on all the Langmuir tables now is far superior from the original stuff that came with the tables, and lots of added features and bonuses like that. But it's just amazing the amount of parts you can cut with this thing and accurate and duplicate everything. It's a big time saver. This thing, like I said, if I didn't have that table, I don't think I would have ever taken on this articulating truck build. Alright, just got these pieces cut out for the other side to kind of lock out the steering on the ball joint mount, but making good use out of this first sheet of metal. Not going to be much left when I get done with this thing. It's just going to be a few little bars. So some of the first things I noticed right off the bat after having even a small CNC table like this is the actual accuracy of all the bolt holes to fit bearing blocks and everything, and to be able to duplicate multiple parts. Just every single time you cut something, they fit together perfectly. Pretty cool. Alright, got most of the parts I need to start on working on the pin arrangement and the hinge. Cutting some 1/2 inch here, and I got my 2 pierce holes right here and here. We're going to cut this part out now. So that turned out pretty good. I'll post some cut feed speeds and amperage on the side here so you guys got an idea if you have one of these tables or a similar table. Pretty clean. So if you see on that graph there, I talked about pierce holes for cutting that 1/2 inch. That was one of the big things because your cut height on the original table was your pierce height. Sometimes you get metal blow back in your tip and mess up your plasma tips. So that was one of the big improvements for me to go for the Crossfire Pro when it came out, because you can buy optional torch height control. Now I believe that's an option you can buy for every single table that they offer. That's a big option. That's well worth it. You'll save yourself a lot of consumables if you end up getting that. We got our part cut out now, and we're going to see how it fits. Hopefully these holes line up. There's kind of complex design on this transmission for all these parts to fit. So the moment of truth, we'll see if my drawings and measuring on all these odd shapes and angles here actually worked out. Oh man, it actually fits. That's pretty good. So about 80% of all the brackets and everything were cut with the original table. Later in the process of this articulating dump truck, like I said, I ended up upgrading to the Crossfire Pro because I felt the table was exactly what I wanted and well worth it. These were cut on some 1/4 inch plate here. These were actually steering brackets for the hydraulic cylinders. Just a great table. Like I said, if I didn't have this thing, I probably wouldn't have taken that job on. So here's some of those parts I just cut. Here's that pump mounting bracket, some gussets for that. Here's that plate I showed you earlier. Here's some caps for the pipe here, and these are going to be some little pusher blocks to push this whole assembly back and forth for adjusting. So once I got my kit all welded up here for the hydraulic pump, I'm going to actually start welding it on. This hydraulic pump I actually salvaged from an electric forklift. It's a pretty good use of a pump. Here I'm cutting out a hydraulic tank reservoir for that articulating dump truck. And I didn't have a box brake, so I ended up actually cutting those little tabs in there, and here I'm clamping some angle iron and a vise and bending it over, making the corners nice and square. See, this box here has these tabs on it, and this one has little indents for nice alignment. Everything fits together really good here. So after I got that hydraulic reservoir sorted out and welded up and plumbed everything, I got the hydraulic steering all figured out and taking this thing out for a little shakedown test run. Pretty excited to announce I finally bought the Crossfire Pro. I've been looking forward to this since they announced it months and months ago that this is a model that was going to be coming up pretty soon. If you're familiar with my channel at all, you've probably seen me building the mini articulating dump truck, and I've been using the original Crossfire quite a bit for cutting all the parts on that. So in this video we're going to be unboxing this thing, talking about it, assembling parts and pieces of it. I'm going to go over some of the features this has and compare it to the original Crossfire. If you guys are probably maybe have the original and you're thinking about upgrading, or maybe you haven't bought a CNC and you're on the fence about it, this video will kind of explain a little bit more between the original and the Pro model. So if you're interested in the video, please stick around and check it out. So that was the intro of the video when I first got my Crossfire Pro. I'll put that link to that video and some of my other reviews of my original table, so if you want to go back and see those over the last few years, you can see what I got to say about them. But here I was just doing some time lapse of all the stuff that came in the packaging and setting up the table. There was a lot to it. It took quite a while to put together, but it was well worth it. I was excited about the bigger cut capacity, even though up to this point I never really needed it for the table. I was actually just looking forward to having a little more cut capacity for body work and things like that. And the torch height control was a big one for this, but like I said, you can get that on I think every single one of their Crossfire tables now. But the Crossfire tables seem to be well built. There's a few things I do kind of miss about the original table. That is, I'm in a small shop, and the small footprint was excellent for a small shop. It was about all I really needed for majority of my projects. Like I said, with the torch height control, that would round that package out really well. It was also on casters, so you could roll it right outside on a nice day, do most of your cutting outdoors if you want. It was just a little bit smaller and portable. You could roll it out of the way when you're not using it. Crossfire Pro here is about 2 original Crossfire tables with the XL kits put together with the water table, so it's pretty big. And it does take up a fair amount of space in my shop, whether I'm using it or not. So that's something to consider. And they also make an XR version now, which is, I think, a true 4x8 table. And that's actually a very good price table. I've not bought it. I haven't really considered it because space is valuable. I don't have a giant shop, as you can tell in all my videos. So this is the only table, I think, the biggest table I'm ever going to use in my shop. And honestly, I don't think I've ever actually had the capacity be an issue. This has plenty of cutting capacity for me. Well, hello, welcome back. I'm 𝐂𝐫𝐸𝐺, and this video series is going to be all about drawing 2D in Fusion 360, so you can actually draw some cool files and actually cut them out on a CNC plasma table. So this is an intro in a 3 or 4 part series I made on Fusion 360 2D drawing for specifically these plasma cutters. Just because when I got it, I knew nothing about these programs, and it seemed super overwhelming and daunting. And once I figured it out, I had a lot of people asking, so I made a little simple tutorial series on it that kind of gets your feet wet, just enough to start doing some super simple 2D drawing. There's still a ton I don't understand about Fusion 360, but when you're doing 2D drawing, it's pretty basic to figure out. So there's a series on my channel I just wanted to point out. There will be links below to that series as well if you're interested in trying to understand how to draw with that program. So what do you think about the grill? Well, to tell you the truth, it still kind of looks like a 1960s robot. Bit ugly. Yeah, it's kind of feeling the same. Got any ideas? Yeah, what I was thinking was, though, possibly we could put a bumper up front and maybe mount a winch to it. That might help it out. Let's give it a try. So that was a funny little skit I put together where I doubled myself up on that image, and working late in the shop at night, working on YouTube videos, get bored sometimes, so kind of keep it kind of fun. Right here's a little kit I drew up on Fusion 360. That's the beauty of working with Fusion and these tables is I had to draw up a bumper kit for all these mounts, but once you get it cut, if you needed a second one, duplicate it, you just move the torch over, hit re-zero, and hit cut. And within a matter of minutes, you got a whole nother kit cut out. Definitely a great tool if you really want to make like a side business for metal fabrication. You know, here's a kit right here I cut out in a matter of minutes. And if you're making off-road vehicle parts like lift kits or bumper kits, it's definitely going to be a money maker for you and save you a lot of time. It's a quality tool and very reliable. For some of you that don't follow my channel, this is my mini Pinzgauer build series. I took an old Polaris 6x6 broken down quad, and it was pretty messed up. I hadn't ran for years, and butchered it completely, built a cab, made it rack and pinion, put a steering wheel on it.
built a bunch of body work and repowered it, and made a mini 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬𝐬 European military truck out of it. And this is one of the things where I really utilize that full size table of the Pro model. Keep in mind they still make a table one size bigger than this, which can actually handle full size metal sheets. But most of the parts I needed cut right on this table, no problem, because you can always let the metal hang off the sides. I have a bigger sheet here and I just have it supported on the end, but I'm actually cutting out the front grill section for the mini 𝐂𝐫𝐤𝐬𝐬, and having the bigger size table like this is ideal for cutting body panels and stuff like that. Try this thing out, see how it fits. Oh man, that's gonna be cool. It's gonna really come together with the styling now. Pretty excited about that. All right, let's figure out what kind of braces we need to do and start welding this thing up. This little machine right here kind of goes hand in hand with working with sheet metal with the CNC machine. Pretty good setup. There we go. Nice finished part right here. So over the last 3 years, I've been running this titanium 45 blowback pilot arc start plasma cutter. And even though it's not really set up to run on a CNC table, I was able to wire them in. It's definitely kind of a pain, not something I'm really that thrilled on or recommend that much, just because there's more and more machines out there now with plug and play features, including there's a titanium 65 that just came out on the market that Harbor Freight sells, and it is a plug and play with CNC capable plugs on it. But recently I've been running the 𝐂𝐫𝐿 Cut 60. There'll be a link below to that video review, just because I've had 3 years of cutting with this titanium. It's still going rock solid, but it's time to move on. If you're familiar with my channel, I'll end up using plasma and cutting a bunch of metal with it for a certain amount of years and move on. Same with welders. I'll test a welder out, do a lot of welding on my channel with it. Once I find it's a good machine and I can vouch for it, I move on to some other tool and try it out. And so that's kind of why I got rid of the titanium. It's time to move on, and that's where I'm testing out the 𝐂𝐫𝐿 so I can prove to myself and other people, if they're interested, the 𝐂𝐫𝐿's probably the cheapest affordable plug and play plasma that I know of on the market right now. That was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to get a few years in on that machine and try it out. I rolled this in a previous video. This is going to be the main bed cover. I do need to actually cut it down, narrow it up a little bit with a handheld plasma, but what we really need to do is cut out some little tabs on the CNC. We're going to do that next year. I also have to build an engine cover, rewire the ignition, a few other things like that. So let's head over to the CNC and cut out those tabs next. Welcome back, it's 𝐿𝐺𝐸 here. In this video we're actually going to be pulling off the stock bumpers on this little budget Suzuki Sidekick that I have. We're going to be building up tubular front and rear bumpers for it with some plates mixed in there, maybe put some fog lights on it and install a winch. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. So here made some cardboard templates for the first few plates to make the bumper mounts. There I'm just checking the tool paths, make sure everything's set up right. Time to load in the files and hit cut. So here we go, cutting some 3/16 plate. The beauty, like I said earlier in the video with these CNCs, is just getting perfectly set bolt patterns and just shapes. And to be able to go over the table, hit, duplicate, and cut, and just recut the parts out again for a second batch. Pretty happy about that. That's gonna be a nice mount. Back at the CNC here, I got some more parts drawn up. These are actually going to be some LED mounting plates for the LEDs to be mounted in the bumper. It was kind of cool in the center of that actual light hole I cut out there. I was able to nest in a little LED hanging bracket. You'll see another one getting cut out right here. That gets welded on the back of the tubing to actually mount the light and make it adjustable. Well, I was pretty excited about getting my 4x4 out. I mounted the bumper up the next day and the brake was fairly dry. Took it out, did some trail driving, got into some mud and did a few little hill climbs in a gravel pit. And actually eventually found some snow in the higher elevation. Well, welcome back. I'm 𝐿𝐺𝐸. In this video, we're going to be actually building a rooftop ladder rack for this machine. It's a 1990 Suzuki Carry 4x4. Stick around and enjoy the video. It's so nice to be able to draw up a simple tool path like this for all the mounting plates for this project. Cut them out in one pass on here and you can duplicate it. It's a really nice thing to have in the shop. So here's a little tool tray I'm going to actually cut out next to hold some tools behind my welding table. So there you have it. There's some of the projects I've cut over the last 3 years with my Crossfire tables. These are more of the fun ones I wanted to share. There's been, of course, a lot of brackets and shelf brackets and hangers and different things I've cut. I'm also a millwright, so I've cut a lot of stuff for the business I work for brackets and machinery repairs for them as well. I've got it for mainly home projects like this in my YouTube channel, but I've had a lot of subscribers that have actually got these things and wrote back to me and said, hey Mike, I got it for projects around my place. And I've actually started a small side business with it, building parts for golf carts and side-by-sides. And I've had some other subscribers pick them up and turn them into a pretty successful side business for making metal art with them. So if you actually had any stories about picking these tables up and what you think about them, like I feel I can vouch for good quality on them and they held up really well. If you got any stories you want to leave a comment down below in the comment section. Love to hear what you guys say about the tables.